I stood in the lobby of Caldera Innovations, holding a termination letter with my name misspelled. Ruth Ann Calder had become Ruth Ann Calder on the envelope. Harlan didn't even bother coming down from his office at first. When he finally appeared at the mezzanine railing, he grinned like a king addressing a beggar. Ruth Ann, he called out, don't make this dramatic. You signed everything over. You're not useful here anymore. People stopped mid-conversation. Phones froze in hands. I felt heat crawling up my neck, but my voice stayed steady. Harlan, I said softly, I didn't sign everything. His smile flickered. Just for a second. Get her out, he barked at security. The guard reached for my elbow. I pulled away gently and walked out myself. As the glass doors closed behind me, my phone buzzed. An email notification appeared on the screen. The subject line read, Annual Corporate Ownership Confirmation Overdue. My heart didn't race. It slowed, sharpened. I sat in my car with shaking breath but calm hands. Years of wisdom had taught me that composure unsettles powerful men more than rage ever could. I opened the email with careful fingers. Your annual corporate ownership confirmation is overdue. Please verify current ownership status. Ownership, not former, not past, mine. I clicked the embedded link and watched the page load. There, in cold legal print, was the truth I hadn't dared hope for. Primary owner, Ruth Ann M. Calder. Secondary appointed manager, Harlan Jexley. The man had never filed the transfer forms. He'd been so eager to take control that he forgot the one step that actually mattered. The company wasn't just legally mine. Harlan was technically my employee. Before I could process what this meant, another message arrived from an unknown number. Ruth Ann, it's Marin. I need to tell you something about Harlan. Marin was Harlan's new assistant. The same woman who'd handed me the termination letter. We met at a quiet cafe 10 blocks from the office. Marin looked barely 30, with red-rimmed eyes and fingers that trembled around a coffee mug she never sipped. I shouldn't be talking to you, she whispered. But I can't keep pretending. I nodded and stayed silent. Silence makes confessions rise on their own. Harlan's been bragging to everyone, she said. He told the executives he got rid of the old woman, and as soon as the last funds cleared, he'd shut down the original company and move everything offshore. I felt no anger, only clarity, sharp and cold. Marin, I said carefully, why are you telling me this? She swallowed hard and looked around the cafe. Then she slid a flash drive across the table. Because I found something in the shared drive. Something he didn't mean for me to see. My fingers didn't shake as I picked it up. What's on it? Files, she whispered. About you. About the company. Everything. Back home, I inserted the drive into my laptop. The folder opened slowly, revealing documents I hadn't seen in nearly a decade. Acquisition contracts, proprietary patents, financial ledgers, all stamped with my signature and the company's founding seal. Then I saw a hidden subfolder titled Calder Trust. Trust, a trust I'd created years ago to protect the company if anything happened to me. One Harlan had never even known existed. I clicked it open with careful precision. My breath caught in my throat. The trust didn't just secure my ownership. It explicitly prevented dissolution of the company without my notarized approval. Every step of his plan was illegal. Every single step. My humiliation transformed into something else. Quiet resolve. Powerful purpose. Then my landline rang. The number showed it was from the office. I answered. Ruth Ann, it's Eldrick Boone. Do you have a moment? It's about Harlan. You're not going to like what I found. Eldrick arrived at my house looking disheveled, his tie hanging loose like he'd torn at it during the drive. He spoke without sitting down. Harlan is inflating the quarterly earnings. Artificially. Aggressively. I don't know how he thinks he'll survive an audit. I raised an eyebrow slowly. You mean survive my audit? He blinked. You know? Oh, I said quietly, I know. Eldrick sank into the nearest chair. There's more. He transferred company funds to a private holding account in his brother's name. If shareholders see this, he'll drag the entire company under. I folded my hands in my lap. Eldrick, why come to me now? He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Because Harlan planned to pin the fraud on you. He drafted a report. Your name is all over it. I exhaled slowly. Not fear. Confirmation. I stood and looked toward the window. Then it's time. Time for what? He asked. For me to take back my company. At that moment, my phone buzzed. A text from Harlan appeared. Stop digging. You're going to get hurt. I stared at Harlan's threat. Men like him always think warnings will silence women who have already survived worse. I forwarded the message to a secure folder instead of replying. Evidence speaks loudest in a man's own voice. Seconds later, Eldrick's phone buzzed. He checked it and his eyes widened. He just ordered IT to revoke all your old admin access. Good, I said, reaching for my coat. Let him scramble. Eldrick frowned deeply. Where are you going? To the Secretary of State's office. His surprise was almost amusing. Now? Right now? Yes, I answered calmly. Harlan thinks he closed a door on me today. But I built that door. And I kept a spare key. We stepped outside together. A sleek black car rolled slowly to the curb. Marin sat inside, pale and shaking. Her window rolled down. Ruth Ann, she said urgently, he knows I talked to you. I walked over quickly. What happened? He fired me. Said he'd handle me later. I didn't stay to find out what that meant. Marin sat in my living room, hands wrapped around a cup of tea I'd made. She'd been crying. I only found those files because Harlan ordered me to delete the originals tomorrow morning. Everything, he said, once the shutdown is approved, no one will question missing documents. Cold certainty settled over me like frost. He wasn't just reckless, he was accelerating his timeline. Then we don't have until tomorrow, I said firmly. We have today. Her eyes widened. To do what? I reached for my folder containing the trust documents and ownership confirmation. To remind the state of something it should never have forgotten. I opened the folder carefully. But as I did, a thick notarized document slid out. One I didn't recognize. It bore what looked like my signature. Except it wasn't mine. The pen strokes were too heavy. Too rushed. Harlan had forged it. He was going to submit this, I murmured, holding it up. He was preparing to erase me completely. Eldrick leaned closer. What will you do? I smiled faintly. Follow the law more precisely than any man expects. We drove downtown in determined silence. The government building hummed with fluorescent sterility, but I felt something else entirely. Purpose. The clerk examined my trust papers, the ownership confirmation, and Harlan's incomplete forgery. Her eyes snapped up to mine. Ma'am, do you understand what this means? Oh yes, I said softly. I understand perfectly. She stamped the papers with official precision. Then she leaned forward and whispered, you now have full legal authority to audit, suspend, or remove any acting manager. Effective immediately. The words settled like armor around my shoulders. By the time we reached the parking garage, my phone buzzed repeatedly. 3 missed calls from Harlan. 2 voicemails. 1 abruptly deleted message. Panic has a digital footprint. I didn't return any of them. Instead, I emailed the board of directors. People I hadn't spoken to since stepping back. Emergency review required. Acting manager has exceeded authority and is under investigation for fraud. Ownership documentation attached. I hit send without hesitation. Marin gasped softly. Eldrick stared. You just triggered a mandatory board intervention, he said. They'll be at the company within hours. My phone rang almost immediately. Not Harlan this time. Vernice Sarawil, chairwoman of the board. A woman I respected deeply. Her voice was sharp and urgent. Ruth Ann, where are you? We need to meet, now. In the background of her call, I heard Harlan shouting. I'm on my way, I said calmly. The board met in a private suite at a downtown hotel. They always avoided the office when internal storms brewed. Vernice greeted me with a long, assessing look. You don't look like a woman who lost everything. I didn't, I replied simply. Inside, Harlan paced like a caged animal. When he saw me enter, he froze. Rage twisted his features. You, he spat. How dare you bring this here? I raised one hand. Sit down, Harlan. The room went completely still. Even he could read the shift in power. I laid the registered documents on the conference table. Trust papers, ownership confirmation, evidence of his forged signature. Vernice's eyes hardened as she examined them. Harlan Jexley, is this your doing? He stuttered. She's lying. Those documents are fake. They're verified, Vernice said smoothly. I leaned back in my chair with complete calm. You laughed when you thought you'd erased me, Harlan. But you forgot one thing. He glared at me. And what's that? That I built this company on truth. And truth always leaves a trail. Vernice opened her laptop and turned it toward the board members. Ruth Ann, we need to know how far his misconduct goes. Tell us everything. The boardroom fell silent as all eyes shifted to me. Even Harlan stopped pacing. His breathing was shallow. Tell us everything, Vernice repeated with authority. I opened my small leather folio. The one I'd carried for decades. Inside were handwritten ledgers that most people dismissed as sentimental or outdated. I kept dual books, I said evenly. Not to hide anything, but to ensure no one else ever could. Harlan's face drained of all color. These record the original agreements, founding capital, and every executive contribution, including mine, which far outweighs the rest. Vernice flipped through page after page. Her expression darkened. My God, so if anyone tried to alter our history, I continued, it wouldn't work. Harlan lunged forward suddenly. Those are meaningless, ancient records. I tilted my head slightly. Funny, because they match the Secretary of State's archives exactly. Vernice spoke quietly but firmly. Ruth Ann, if your numbers are correct, you own not just controlling interest. You own 73% of this company. The room erupted in whispers. Harlan's mouth opened and closed like a drowning man. This is a setup, he stammered desperately. She's framing me. I had no intention of raising my voice. Wisdom grows too old for shouting. You forged a signature, Harlan. You attempted to destroy original company records. You intimidated employees. And you tried to dissolve a corporation that did not legally belong to you. He slammed his fist on the table. You're senile. Everyone knows it. You stepped down because you couldn't handle the pressure. I smiled slowly and deliberately. I stepped down because my husband was dying, and I chose love over profit. Something you've never understood. The board members looked at me, then at him. Their choice was clear, but Harlan wasn't finished. He straightened suddenly with forced confidence. Fine. If you think you can take me down, good luck doing it without your staff. They're all loyal to me. I slid a small silver USB drive across the table. Are they? His eyes widened. Inside that drive were dozens of anonymous employee testimonies Marin had collected over the past weeks. Stories of Harlan's arrogance, his harassment, his retaliation, his complete mismanagement. The room grew colder with each revelation. Vernice stood slowly and addressed Harlan directly. Harlan Jexley, leave the room. The board is voting. He stormed out, slamming the door so violently the water glasses trembled on the table. Silence settled like dust. Vernice folded her hands professionally. Motion to remove Harlan Jexley as acting manager and suspend him pending investigation. Every board member raised their hand. Every single one. Unanimous. Motion to appoint Ruth Ann Calder as interim executive director. For a moment, I hesitated. I had never intended to sit in that chair again. But I also wasn't about to let the man who tried to erase me destroy what I've built. Slowly, I raised my own hand. The board followed immediately. Unanimous again. Vernice nodded with approval. Congratulations, Ruth Ann. I exhaled softly. Not triumph. Resolve. Before anyone could speak, an assistant rushed in, pale as paper. There's a situation downstairs. Harlan is trying to remove boxes from the building. He says he's taking back what's his. I rose from my chair immediately. No, he's taking what's mine. When the elevator doors opened to the lobby, Harlan froze mid-stride. He held a server tower in his arms. He looked absurd, a furious child hauling away a toy he didn't deserve. Put it down, Harlan, I said quietly. Get out of my way. No. Security guards stood nearby, unsure who to obey. I took a single step forward. Calm, steady, unshakable. You're being recorded, I reminded him. And removing corporate servers is a federal crime. His grip tightened on the equipment. You took everything from me. No, I replied gently. I simply reclaimed what was always mine. For a moment, rage filled his eyes. Then something else appeared. Real, suffocating panic. He dropped the server. It hit the floor with a metallic crash that echoed like a final verdict. Security moved in immediately. Harlan didn't fight. He just sagged against the wall, completely defeated. Ruth Ann, he whispered hoarsely, please. Don't do this. I looked at him carefully. The man who laughed when I lost everything. Who tried to erase me. Who thought age made me weak. I'm not doing anything to you, I said. You did this to yourself. Security escorted Harlan outside while employees watched in stunned silence. I turned back toward the elevator, but my phone buzzed again. A message from Marin. Ruth Ann, there's something else you need to see. It's about the shutdown order. Back upstairs, Marin waited by a conference room window. She was wringing her hands nervously. Beside her sat a thick brown envelope. I found this taped under Harlan's desk, she said. He meant to destroy it. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a confidential contract I had never seen before. A contract between Harlan and an outside conglomerate. He'd planned to sell the company's intellectual property, liquidate all assets, and personally pocket the entire payout. But the most chilling part was this. The contract was already signed by the buyer. All it needed was one signature. Owner of Caldera Innovations, Ruthann Calder. My name. He had forged everything but that final signature. He had been days away from collapsing the entire company into a corporate grave of his making. Marin looked at me with horror in her eyes. Ruthann, this wasn't just greed. He was planning a takeover. I exhaled slowly. No, Marin, he was planning a burial. My phone began ringing. The buyer's attorney. The conference room was silent when I answered. Ms. Calder, a man said smoothly, this is Quentin Braddock, counsel for Grandmark Holdings. We received notice that the purchase agreement is ready for your signature. No, I cut in firmly. The agreement is invalid. A short silence followed. Then, invalid? Ms. Calder, we wired the down payment. Your partner assured us the controlling owner would sign. My partner misrepresented himself, I said evenly. I'm the controlling owner. Another silence. Heavier this time. Ms. Calder, he said finally, if you didn't authorize this, then we have a very serious problem. Harlan Jexley signed on behalf of the company. He had no legal authority. And he concealed that fact from us. I heard papers rustling in the background. Muted voices conferring urgently. Then Quentin exhaled sharply. It appears we may have been defrauded. I didn't soften the blow. Yes, you were. Ms. Calder, would you be willing to meet our executive director? If Jexley acted in bad faith, there are significant ramifications. I glanced at the forged contract on the table. Yes, I said, I'll come. Quentin's voice grew harder. Good, because Grandmark Holdings intends to press charges. And they want you to endorse the complaint. The next morning, I walked into the mirrored lobby of Grandmark Holdings. A place built with cold money and colder ambition. But I wasn't intimidated. Quentin greeted me with a firm handshake. This way, Ms. Calder. He led me to a private conference room. Inside sat a woman in her late 40s. Poised, sharp-eyed, dressed in understated power. Amara Valen, executive director. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. Ms. Calder, she said, sliding the contract toward me, we were led to believe you approved of dissolving Caldera Innovations. I didn't, I replied clearly. She studied me carefully, measuring something deeper than truth. Perhaps character itself. Harlan Jexley lied to us, she said finally. He falsified documents, bypassed due diligence, and used our name to leverage internal changes at your company. Yes, I said, that was his pattern. Amara clasped her hands. Then we would like to pursue charges jointly. Fraud, intentional deception, attempted misappropriation of corporate assets. Her words carried quiet thunder. But then she added, with almost grim admiration, you're remarkably composed for someone who nearly lost her empire. I smiled faintly. I already lost something far more important once. After that, the rest becomes negotiable. Amara watched me for a long moment. May I show you something? She opened a thick folder. Inside were records, emails, financial transfers, even voice memos, evidence of Harlan's months-long negotiations with Grandmark, all built on lies and forged authority. Evidence that would bury him completely. Quentin leaned forward. We've been tracking these transactions for weeks. Once we realized the irregularities, we began our own investigation. Amara tapped one document carefully. There's one more player involved, Ms. Calder. Someone inside your company. My breath caught. Not from fear, from revelation. Another individual? I asked. Amara slid the document toward me. Your former accounts manager, Perla Whitcomb. Perla, a woman I'd hired myself. A woman who baked lemon bars for birthdays. Who remembered everyone's children's names. She funneled internal financials to Jexley, Amara explained. She was paid for it. Substantially, Quentin added. Perla's role made it possible for Harlan to forge the early dissolution paperwork. I closed my eyes briefly. Not from shock, but from recognition. Betrayal rarely arrives from the enemy you expect. It sneaks in through the ones who smile and nod. I want the full list of her transfers, I said. Quentin slid me another file. Line after line of deposits into Perla's private account. Going back nearly a year. He bought her loyalty, I murmured. Amara nodded. Will you handle this quietly or publicly? Publicly, I said, standing. The company deserves transparency. I wasn't angry. I was resolute. Because another truth had formed, clear as crystal. Harlan wasn't the mastermind. He was being fed information. enabled, guided, by someone who believed I was too old to catch on. As I closed the file, I noticed a final transfer. Dated yesterday, meaning Perla was still helping him. Back at Caldera Innovations, I entered the accounting office without announcement. Perla Whitcomb sat at her desk, typing quickly. Too quickly, until she saw me. Her hands froze on the keyboard. Ms. Calder, she stammered. I didn't expect you. No, I said softly. You didn't. Her eyes darted toward the exit. Guilt is always looking for a door. I set the folder on her desk. She stared at it like it was burning. Perla, I said, I trusted you. She swallowed hard. Harlan said the company would be dissolving. That you were stepping away. That I'd be protected if anything came out. So you helped him destroy the legacy of the woman who gave you a career? Her face crumpled. I needed the money. I nodded slowly. That's the one confession no one ever lies about. She began crying. Real tears. Are you going to have me arrested? No, I said. She froze, confused. I'm going to let the investigators decide. Her tears stopped mid-fall, replaced by terror. But I will do one thing today, I added, leaning closer. I'm removing your access to every financial system, every file, every terminal. Effective this moment, the color drained completely from her face. And Perla, I said softly, if you attempt to hide or delete anything, the charges will triple. Her chin trembled. I'm so sorry. I wasn't cruel, but I didn't offer comfort either. Report to HR, I said. They're expecting you. As she left, Marin rushed in urgently. Ruth Ann, the police are in the lobby. They've come for Harlan. I walked to the elevator and pressed the button. The officers escorted Harlan through the lobby as cameras flashed. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. Not humiliated by me, but by the consequences he'd crafted with his own hands. He spotted me standing near the entrance. Ruth Ann, he rasped desperately. Please, say something. Help me. I walked toward him slowly. He shook his head in disbelief. I thought once you had everything back, you'd forgive me. I stopped a few feet away. Harlan, I said quietly, forgiveness is not the same as immunity. He blinked, stunned by the simplicity of it. You laughed when I lost everything, I continued. Now you face losing what you tried to steal. He opened his mouth, but no words emerged. The officers began guiding him away. But I spoke one last sentence. The one he would remember long after the doors closed behind him. I didn't get revenge, Harlan. I got clarity, and clarity is far more permanent. He looked at me then. Not angry, not even pleading, but aware, truly aware. For the first time, he understood the difference between cruelty and consequence. Then he was gone. I turned to Marin, who stood beside me with wide eyes. What now? She whispered. I smiled, a quiet, seasoned smile. Now, I said, we rebuild. Not from humiliation, not from loss, but from wisdom, and from the power of a woman who refused to disappear. The company was mine again. But more importantly, so was my dignity. And that was something no man could ever take away. In the end, he took everything he thought would break me, and all it did was reveal the strength I never knew I had, and the truth that justice always comes, even if it arrives in my name. Now to the lovely viewers of this channel. Got a story? Let's tell it together. Here on this channel, your voice matters. If you have a personal story, a revenge moment, a betrayal twist, or even an idea that you think would make our narrative sharper, more emotional, or more entertaining, share it with us. Tell us what themes you want more of, what twists keep you hooked, what parts of our stories hit you the hardest, or what you'd love to hear next. Drop your thoughts, stories, and suggestions in the comments below. Let's build this amazing community together, one powerful story at a time. Your story could be the next one featured. Don't be shy, we're listening. And we would always respond.